Well, then again, Melinda was around 600 years ago. She knows, and a Stillwater knows, and she's bowing. So I think I'm gonna kneel before the god of time. So what Arka said, I decided not to risk everyone's safety for the sake of my pride. I kneel in front of the god just like Melindra. If you want to see me kneeling, then I hope you have bought a chair. Darren tells the god of time, while you're going to be waiting for a while. Just as Darren is done talking, we see his heart being ripped straight out of his chest, right through his plate armor by an invisible force as blood begins to splatter out of him. Oh no, Hardrick says. The rest of us all watch Darren, too shocked to speak. Darren is almost about to fall to the ground. I hear Hardrick starting to talk in reverse, and then I see Darren's heart going back inside the chest by itself, while all of the blood on the ground on his armor gets cleaned up instantly. As soon as the time reversal spell is over, Darren begins to breathe very loudly and rapidly while sweating all over, as if he'd just woken up from a terrible nightmare. Arka laughs when she sees the look on his face. I guess I forgot that he can also reverse time, as long as he has control of the time weaver. Arka says, my bad. I will not repeat again. The god of time says, kneel. Kate and the others exchange a few hesitant looks, but it doesn't seem as if any of them are planning to follow the order of God's orders, even after his previous display of power. Sorry, Hadrick says with a half a grin, while trying to mimic his usual confident tone. My doctor told me that kneeling is bad for my eyes. I said kneel. The god shouts, and then an immense amount of pressure pushes all of us to the ground. I mean, we were already on the ground. What are you talking about? Including Melindra and me, who were already kneeling, okay. We are now all being squashed against the rocky soil by an incredible force. I can already feel the pain from my internal organs bleeding, as the enormous pressure above us just keeps getting more and more unbearable in order to make sure that he doesn't kill us. The god of time keeps casting time reversal spells every 10 seconds or so, thus healing our internal wounds, just so they can be reformed again. And over the course of the next few minutes, why? I kneeled. Why are you fucking crushing me, dude? What the fuck? During this time, I can't manage to pay attention to everything around me. Every ounce of my strength, energy is being focused into withstanding the pain. I can no longer tell if the screams that I'm hearing are coming from me or from my enemies or from my friends. It's as if I've voluntarily entered some sort of trance, trying to become one with the pain, trying to let it flow through me. No matter how hard I try, however, the pain keeps getting the better of me. Then I need to regain my focus. Need to regain my focus all over again. Can you stop with the time reversals already? Araka says, exasperated after a while. You're making me dizzy. Upon hearing Araka's words, the god of time casts one last time reversal spell. Then he lowers the amount of pressure in the air above us, making sure that he is no longer hurting us, but still keeping us pressed against the ground. Thank you, Araka says in the same exasperated tone. I see that living amongst these mortals have taught you some long overdue basic etiquettes, Araka. The god of time says. It is regrettable that you would not learn these manners before you're forced to banish that we were forced to banish you from our realm. Forced, Araka says. Ha! You only did it because you were afraid of me. It's funny because while we were both living in the magical plane, I hadn't tagged you as the cowardly type, and yet twice you ran away from me. Once with the banishment, and the second time 600 years ago. What happened to that unfinished duel of ours, eh? Didn't you say that we would settle our scores eventually? And we will, the god of time says. As soon as we are both back to our peak condition, you wouldn't want to fight me from inside an amulet, would you? Well, if you could just destroy this amulet for me, we could, Araka starts to say, but she's interrupted by the god of time. You will receive no help from me, god of time says. Don't think I've forgotten about the many spirits you have killed and absorbed all those thousands of years ago. Some of them were my friends, you know. Don't be like that, Selkram, Araka says with a mocking tone. We're friends too, aren't we? After all, it's thanks to me that you found out that you could absorb other spirits. Don't think that I didn't figure out what you've been doing. You might have managed to hide this from all the other spirits in the magical plane, but I'm the one who invented the technique. I know all about its side effects. Your voice started to change right after we had our first battle in the magical plane, and the same thing happened to Ulruk. Those different voices that you are using when you speak are from all the other spirits that you couldn't properly absorb, aren't they? The same thing happened to me at first, but then I learned and adapted, unlike you idiots. Seriously, what did you and Ulruk think, that you could just copy my technique without any sort of training? How arrogant could you be anyway? Do you have any idea how much time I spent perfecting that spell? But hey, I guess it was easier for you to assume that only female spirits from civilized races could absorb other spirits correctly, and to convince everyone to banish us to the earthen plane, than to admit that the only reason for your failure was your outstanding ineptitude. I will not stand here and listen to you mocking, the god of time starts to say, but Araka cuts him off. You should both have listened to Memphir, Arka says. He's the only one with brains out of all of you god. I bet he tried to stop you from absorbing the spirits, didn't he? I never heard him using different voices when he spoke. How is Memphir, by the way? Isn't the time limit for his own prophecy due at some point during this century? The god of fate, his prophecy are none of your business, the god of time starts to say, but he gets cut off again. Yeah, it was this century, wasn't it? Arka says, as she is now as she is ignoring the god of time completely, by getting lost in her own thoughts. While the prophecy was pretty specific about his death too, it said that he would be killed by a member of the civilized races from the earthen plane, who would originate from the region called Varathia. Remember now, Memphir kept rechecking the prophecy again and again in the hopes that something would change, even if he always got the exact same result. He was becoming completely obsessed with it. I bet he must have really freaked out when Aiden named his continent Varathia, huh? And now that the time limit is drawing closer, and the so-called god of fate even went as far as forming a temporary alliance with the god of death, saying that he'll help him with his indiscriminate murders as long as they were being focused on Varathia. Honestly, don't get what's going on with Memphir's head. If I were in his place, I would just reduce this entire continent to a pile of ash in one day and be done with it. The god of fate is aiming to destroy this continent too. Just how could the situation get any worse? Arka, if we don't keep quiet, I'm going to Selkram. Selkram, the god of time, says. You're going to what? Arka says in a provocative tone. Destroy my amulet? I could also throw you very far away from here in the middle of the ocean where nobody will ever find you again, God says. I like to see you try, Arka says. Don't listen to her provocation, Luna says. She's struggling to articulate her words while she's still being pushed face first against the ground. If you throw her in an ocean, she will just escape from the amulet by herself, and that will be the end for all of us. Oh, the god of time says. So you must be her captor then, or maybe just her jailer. I suppose it's only fitting for a banshee to be the one overseeing such a task, given how much your kind has had to suffer because of her arrogance, and because of yours. Flower shouts all of a sudden. It's your fault that Petal has to live like this. She never wanted this life. She never wanted to kill anyone, and neither did any of the other banshees. I will never forgive you what you have done. You will never forgive me, the god of time says, sounding genuinely puzzled. You must have a very short memory if you can afford to talk like that. After all that happened, allow me to refresh the short memory of yours a little. He then begins to increase the pressure that was pushing Flower against the ground until she starts screaming in pain. For a few more seconds, the god of time reverses time again to make sure he doesn't kill her by accident. He continues to squash her over and over again like that. Oh no, Araka says, not the time reversals again. Just kill me and put me out of my misery. Try to get the god of time's attention so he'll focus on me instead of Flower. Leave the god alone. He will surely stop by himself eventually. I mean, there's no point. He could just crush both of us. It's not like he has to switch attentions. He can just crush both of us. I'll just leave him alone for now. So I had to avoid trying to piss off the god of death any further. I would probably only make things worse for all of us if I intervened. Leave her alone, Kate shouts after Skelkrum squashes Flower against the ground a few more times. Haven't you heard her enough? The god reverses time again in order to heal Flower. Then he floats all the way to Kate's position so he can get a better look at her, or at least I think that's what he's trying to do, since he doesn't really have a face. Very strange, the god of time says. With the tone you are using to address me, I would have expected you to at least have some decent amount of magical energy to back up your threats. But when I look at you closely, I see that your power can barely even compare to the Stillwater in your own group, let alone someone of my caliber. So what is that you're trying to defy? I wonder. Who cares, Araka says. She's a weakling anyway. It's not just her. She's surprisingly weak, however. Zelkram says as he flies to the higher position in order to have a better look at all of us. Neither of the people in the group, except for the Stillwater girl, can even begin to compare with the ones from 600 years ago in terms of magical power. Last time there was the Golden Fox, there was that Stillwater you were fused with. There was also the really strong Stillwater who was traveling with the fox. Aiden, I believe, was his name. Compare that to what we have here. It all seems like a cruel joke. Why even bother to send the Time Weaver to any of these people? They will probably just get killed off within the next few days if they are lucky enough to even survive that long. What are you talking about? I say as I'm having a little trouble speaking properly due to my face being constantly pushed in the dirt. Aren't you the one who sent the Time Weaver here? Arka says. Selkram wishes he could control Time Weavers whenever he wants. The Magium is the one who sent the Time Weaver here, not this sad excuse for a god. The Magium, I say, too shocked to be able to do anything other than repeat her words. Anaka says, it is somewhat of a tradition for the Magium to send a time weaver on the earthen plane every time there is a potential for a great number of lives to be lost in a short period of time, especially when it comes to this continent. When the time weaver's powers finally awaken, the person who was gifted with these powers will enter some kind of trance, will freeze time, and they will walk patiently towards several groups of people, delivering the prophecy to them one by one. That has always been. But then why does the god of time have to do with all of this, I ask?